Okay, so the last unit in this subject is on traditional indigenous building system. So far, we have seen various disasters and the mitigative measures that is suggested and policy measures that is suggested. And in this, in the revised syllabus, this is a new addition that for you. This has been done actually. So in this, there are two keywords that has been introduced. One is on climate responsive approach. This has been done traditionally. Okay, so that's why the this has been put under this title, and also various traditional techniques people have been adopting for responding to different disaster. We'll just go through some case studies as well. Okay, so today what I'll do is I'll restrict the discussion only to climate responsive approaches, and this will be very important subject, and this will be directly useful as well for your designs and so on. And also I am also very much interested in this topic as well, because we do this extensively in sustainable architecture program. Okay, so we go into very details of it. We'll try to understand components of climate and science and so on and so forth. Okay, so I'll be in a position to give you overall comprehensive understanding about how do we approach climate responsive architecture, and what are the tools and techniques we use. Okay, so so in that way I felt this will be useful for you as well. Okay, so when we talk about climate responsive architecture, one thing we synonymously use is solar passive strategies as well. Okay, so in this topic or in this discussion, what I would like to draw your attention to the passive techniques used in the building, so that the building can work on its own. Okay, so we will see briefly what is passive architecture, and what are the strategies used to achieve the requirement. So if you see, using passive design building form and thermal performance of building elements, which includes architectural, structural envelope and passive mechanical, are carefully considered and optimized for interaction with local climate. One of the keyword that is there in the sentence is how our building responds to the immediate local climate. Okay, so the broad topic and under which we are discussing passive architecture is climate responsive approach, right? So when we say how do we design buildings for climate, okay, so how this particular building responds to the immediate microclimate is what we are interested in. Okay, so to the one of the aim or one of the objective of any design, particularly when we talk about naturally ventilated building, is to make building run without depending on mechanical energy or mechanical means. Okay, so the ultimate vision of passive design is to fully eliminate requirements of active mechanical means. For example, the requirements of AC or the requirements of artificial lighting and so on and so forth. Yeah, so this is the objective on which the entire discussion takes place when we talk about climate responsive architecture, and that too with specific focus on passive strategies. So passive solar design strategies comprises of important ways of reducing heating or cooling or lighting energy in a building. So there are three components that is mentioned. What is heating, cooling and lighting. Okay, so depending on the location and depending on the climate condition, we design buildings either to avoid heating or to bring in heating. Okay, for example, if you are designing in warm and humid climates like here or in any other place, what we do, we try to make sure that the direct solar energy does not reaches the building, right? So this is one case. However, in case of cold climate where we need this solar energy, okay, so the passive strategy can be used either for bringing heat or to shed heat. Okay, one, both the things are here, heating, or it can be for cooling as well. Okay, cooling in the sense, maybe for example, let's say ventilation. Yeah. So also we have seen in one of the discussion earlier class as well, how wind behaves and how natural ventilation can be enhanced in the building. Okay, and that is nothing but cooling the buildings. Okay, and apart from that, we can also use passive strategy for lighting as well. Okay, so many of the spaces in buildings can be lit with daylight. Okay, and we have sufficient daylight throughout the country, at least in Indian subcontinent. Okay, so how do you make sure that we get enough daylight so that artificial lighting or dependence on artificial lighting is reduced? Okay, so having said that, how do you make a balance between passive and active strategies, and also a combination of strategies? Actually, there are too many ideas are available. There are so many strategies are available depending on the context, depending on what is the objective. Okay, so this strategy has to be optimally chosen. Okay, for example, let's say if you are designing a building where you need daylight. Okay, so when you say daylight, along with light you will also get heat. Okay, so for example, you may have created a big facade which will bring you direct daylight into the building. Okay, however, your intention is only to bring daylight. However, light does not come alone. Okay, so along with it will bring heat. Okay, so how do you address the issue of heat? Okay, when we talk about daylight, or when, let's say, in some cases you wanted heat, you don't want light. Okay, so for example, in some of our studios, some of the studios, we have excess lighting, excess daylighting, which is actually causing problem for us, right? I hope you must have understood, or if not, maybe next time when you visit, you can think about it. There are some studios where we have excess daylight. Okay, that is actually causing problem for day-to-day work. Okay, so there has to be a balance between what is needed, and so that we understand which strategies to be used and which ideas to be used in the buildings. Okay, so passive solar design strategies aim to reduce use solar energy to help establish thermal comfort in the buildings, and less dependent on mechanical energy, and so on and so forth. Okay, the another point, the greatest opportunity for integration of passive solar design strategy occur at conceptual level. Okay, this is another point that we should remember. Not many times we feel that these are not the works of architects. Okay, we have consultants to do that. Okay, so one consultant can give only about, he can suggest, or he can guide us on how much AC load can be given, how much can be reduced, and what is the best mechanical means of systems that can be adapted in the building, and so on and so forth. Okay, as such, he will not be in a position to comment on the building and the building characteristics. Okay, which include the building form, the building envelope. Okay, the orientation of the building, the size of the building, the kind of finishes that we use for buildings. Okay, so all this are to be done by architects, and more so this has to be done at a very early stages, very early stages of conceptualizing the build form. Okay, so that's why this point is very essential. So where we say that these ideas has to come at the early stages. When you think of design, when you conceptualize some building, and only at that stage these ideas should be discussed and brought into design. Okay, so this is the same thing. There should be a balance between what kind of strategies to be used and which is the appropriate strategy. So only based on these understanding will be in a position to design buildings in a proper way. Okay, so when we say designing building in proper way, we can divide the building into different components. Okay, we can understand buildings in terms of components. So if we can understand the components individually, we'll have a clearer understanding of how the entire or whole building works. Okay, so in this case I have put for example, we have the entire building can be understood using 5 elements. One is aperture or the skin. The second one is called absorber. The third one is thermal mass, distribution, and control. We'll go one by one and we'll try to understand what do you mean by all this. Okay, the first component is collector or aperture. Okay, so which is nothing but the wall system that we use. Right, so if we are designing a building, that building, let us say if we are designing it in cold climate, the objective is to bring in heat into the building. Okay, so or if you are designing in warm and humid climate and so on, in this case our intention is to keep the heat coming in as less as possible, and at the same time increase the natural ventilation, wind movement in the building. Okay, so the appropriate design of this wall and opening is one of the criteria that has to be understood and designed well, so that it satisfies the local climate. This is one thing. Second thing is the kind of materials that we use inside the building. Okay, so ultimately what is the aim of our designing building is to have a controlled environment inside the building. Okay, why do we have roof and wall? To avoid the extreme climatic conditions outside, and we have so that we have a desired or desirable environment within the building. Okay, so if that is the case, although we may have designed well articulated wall or well thought of wall or the structural system, however, if we use inappropriate materials as finishes, for example, which retains a lot of heat. Okay, I'll give you one simple example. Many times what we see is even in Vijayawada, I have seen in many of the houses they put carpet. They put carpet in living room, and they put carpet in study room and public area as well, in some of the cases. Okay, and if you see there, if you actually see, you will if you take off your shoes and see, you will actually feel the heat. Okay, carpet is not the appropriate material for the climate like Vijayawada. Why? The carpet has a tendency to retain the heat for longer time. Okay, so inappropriate use of materials can also cause problem, which maybe the walls may have been designed well. Okay, the openings may have been taken all the codal requirements of opening has been taken care. All that is done, but still you may feel discomfort in the interiors. Why? Because the kind of material that we have chosen inside as well matters a lot. Okay, so that is the second point that we should keep in mind. Third part, thermal mass is another component that we should know. In this case, we talked about openings. Okay, so how much opening should be there in a wall system, and here what is that wall system? Okay, so what is the appropriate wall that should be there? Okay, so this is normally understood. This is normally synonymously understood using a word called thermal mass. Okay, so how and also probably you must have also learnt about time lag in climatology subject. You must have learnt about this. Okay, so how much time it takes this wall to get heated up? Okay, so for example, let's say we get sunshine, let's say sun rises here and sets, and let's say from maybe around 2 or 3 o'clock we directly get solar radiations on this wall. Okay, and from 3 to 6 this wall is getting heated up. Okay, directly. Otherwise also through indirect heat, this wall will be getting heat, and that will be absorbing and retaining the heat. However, direct solar radiation is falling on this particular wall, let's say from 2 or 2:30, and then till 6 this wall is actually, or maybe 5, is actually getting a direct solar radiations, and which means the direct heat is getting absorbed into this wall. Now the idea is how long this wall will get heated up. Okay, and or to put it in a simple way, for example, let's say if it takes 3 hours to heat this particular wall. Okay, so after 3 hours the temperature outside here will be same as the temperature inside. Okay, because because this has got heated up equal to the outdoor environmental condition. Okay, so if you see after that, let's say after let's say some 7 or 8 p.m. The outdoor condition becomes cooler. Okay, maybe because of the shedding of heat and so on and so forth, the outdoor and the sun is not there. Let's say theoretically, let's say outdoor condition is 27 degrees Celsius. Okay, so but this wall is not 27 degrees Celsius. This wall is actually 33 degrees Celsius, or 30 to 33 degrees Celsius, 3 degree higher than the outdoor condition. So this 3 degree of heat will be exhausted inside the building. Half of the heat will come inside the building, half of it will be dissipated out. Okay, so that's the actual basic concept of UHI, urban heat island, where the heat that has been absorbed during the daytime is actually shed out during the nights. Okay, so appropriate thermal mass has to be used so that this time lag, for example, in case of warm and humid climate, we don't want heat to be retained for longer time. Okay, we want the heat to be shed as early as possible. And in case of cold climate, we don't want heat to be shed as early as possible. We want to retain the heat as long as possible, and because the outdoor condition will be much cooler. Okay, so depending on climate, the kind of material, the kind of thermal mass that we choose is very, very crucial in this case. And the fourth component that we should understand is the heat, okay, that has already come inside the building. Okay, what happens to that? Okay, and probably you must have definitely learned about conduction, convection, and radiation in climatology subject, where some of the heat is that we get inside is through conduction, and some of it through convection, and some of it through radiation, right? So how do you balance out this heat, and how do you vent out this heat, and um, that has to be understood. And again, that also depends on the size, the shape of the building, the material choices that we made, okay, and the kind of openings that we have, and so on and so forth. That's the fourth component. Fifth component, of course, the roof and the shading material. Okay, the shading elements. The roof can be, of course, if you see theoretically, heat enters into the building primarily through openings and the roof. Okay, because the U value of this glass uh, is not as same as the U value of the roof and the wall. Okay, and also if you see wall, we don't get perpendicular solar radiations falling on this wall. Okay, we get solar radiation, but the angle of incidence is different. However, if you see the roof, okay, actually we do get perpendicular uh, 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 solar radiations hitting the roof. Okay, so that's why the roofing system is very crucial, because it absorbs a lot of heat. It is exposed to a lot of heat, direct solar radiation, and as a result, a lot of heat is absorbed in this. So these are the 5 components that we should understand when we talk about designing buildings in a in a climate responsive way. Okay, so apart from that, that's about building, how building works. There are certain concepts that we should understand when we talk about climate responsive architecture. There are certain techniques we adapt in buildings. Okay, many of it we know it. Okay, otherwise some of the concept may be a little new for you. Otherwise, you must have definitely heard of these concepts. Okay, so one of the first concept, we will go through each of it little detailed as well. But before we go there, we'll just quickly list what are the major climate responsive architecture components. Approaches. One is orientation, building form and shape, the buffer space, and the kind of facades that we have. Okay, space planning, spatial planning, how the layout is there, how the site planning is done, and internal layout of the building is done. Okay, window to wall ratio. Okay, WWR. This is another component. How much of your wall is open to direct solar exposure or direct opening, and so on and so forth. Shading materials. Okay, so which can be fixed and which can be dynamic as well. Thermal mass, passive ventilation, nocturnal cooling, night flushing. I think we have discussed this in the wind, when we discussed about wind also. Yeah, night cooling. Stack ventilation. This also we briefly discussed about stack ventilation, what happens, and evaporative cooling measures, and other some of the techniques like air tunnel and so on and so forth. Okay, so these are some of the basic things, basic strategies that we use in climate responsive architecture, or when we design climate responsive buildings. Okay, so the first component is let's say envelope. Okay, what is envelope? Envelope is one which has got direct contact with external environment. Okay, so what is the ultimate aim of designing building? Why do we need building? Is to shun or is to avoid the extreme outdoor weather conditions. Okay, climate conditions. So for that we design buildings, or we go inside building, and that building is actually has a skin which is called envelope, which is in direct contact with the external conditions. Okay, this direct contact can be in, for example, here the direct contact is in the basement, which is nothing but the earth. Okay, so this particular part section is directly in contact with the earth surface. Okay, so this is one problem or one characteristics of building. This particular wall is in direct contact with outdoor conditions. Let's say maybe we have some obstructions here and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is another condition. Similar condition can be observed here as well. However, if you see in the roof, okay, so it is directly exposed to sun and the perpendicular solar incident radiation. Okay, so there are different ways in which the building skin is exposed to outdoor condition. So when we design buildings, the thermal transmittance or U value of building has to be done in such a way so that the building appropriately responds to the outdoor condition. Okay, so the first component is on envelope. How do we design envelope so that the envelope can withstand, or it can it is designed in such a way that it responds positively to the external condition. Okay, so there are certain points that I have put. Building envelope constitute limits between interiors and exteriors. U value is important. Okay, and I also talked about the absorptance value, thermal lag of the building material that we use. Okay, and VLT. Okay, so what is the visual transmittant value of glass that you are using, and so on and so forth. Okay, so all that is crucial when we talk about envelope. This is first component. The second component, which is also crucial, is the building orientation. Okay, the geometry of the building itself. Okay, so closely connected with the envelope property, there are other three factors which influence the performance of the building, which is nothing but the orientation and geometry and the ratios. So thermophysical properties of the building envelope is determined by the heat or heat gain or heat loss of thermal energy. Okay, so why are we discussing all this is, for example, let's say if this building is in warm and humid climate, we are discussing this particular skin with respect to how much heat it will prevent, okay, and or how much quickly the heat will shed out even after absorbing the heat. Okay, so that's why the thermophysical property is one of the component that is crucial for designing building. The other thing is the shape of the building. Okay, there are many examples. I think I have listed in the coming slides. I'll show you how different shape of the building can influence the performance of the building. Okay, so how it is actually bringing more solar energy into the building, and as a result more energy is needed to run the building, and so on and so forth. Okay, so in the same slides I have put some references also. If somebody is interested to know more about these things, you can always refer to the it's all free available. Many of the references that I have put is research article, and if you Google it, you will be able to find. If you are not able to find, you kindly text me. I will share the reading material for you. Okay, so that you have more understanding about all the subject. Okay, and the other component here we said three things. Okay, so the other component is orientation, and this is one of the component which we normally use, and many of you must be using it. Okay, so first thing when you do site plan is you decide on how to orient the building. Okay, so orientation, how do you use how do you orient building in such a way that the excess heat is not entering the building, or in case of cold climate, how do we bring in excess heat into the building? Okay, so this is one component that we should know. The orientation can be analyzed in three levels. This can be done for whole building or building zones or glaze area. What do you mean by that? Many a times we say that, okay, when you do site plan, we normally talk about, okay, I'm orienting building in this way, okay, so that let's say this is west and this is east, and we say that we want to we want, let's say, western light coming in, or we don't want western light coming in. Okay, so we talk about the entire geometry as such. This is also one way of looking at, or it can be discussed at a zoning building zone level as well. What is building zone level? For example, let's say some of these spaces you may need more solar light or heat coming in. For example, let's say kitchen. Okay, so you need light, sunlight coming into the building, which is actually good for that particular space, right? So this particular orientation can be analyzed at overall building level, or it can be analyzed at space level, or it can be analyzed at glazing level. Okay, how much is a percentage of glazing that you have kept on this facade and this facade and this facade, and whether it is appropriate or not for that particular orientation. Okay, so it depends on how do we analyze it. Yeah, this is one example. The other component that was put is geometry. Apart from geometry, the ratios. Okay, the shape of the building we have seen. Okay, the aspect ratio of the building. What is the length to width of the building? Whether length to width of the building has got any impact on the performance of the building is another component that we should understand. Okay, so there is one interesting study. Maybe those who are keen, you can check this material. Impact of some building passive design parameters on heating demand for cold region, where they have demonstrated that if you have a building form of 1:1 or 2:1, 3:1, and so on and so 10 up to 10:1, how that particular building performs, okay, in terms of how much glazing area they have kept certain characteristics of certain characteristics like the glazing area and kind of material as constant, and then they have analyzed its performance. Okay, so this is also one of the important component that we should understand in terms of build form design. The third component that we should understand, and we normally do, is on shading. Okay, so although we have building, okay, and that building has you have appropriately designed windows, okay, maybe it is not sufficient that this mass itself will protect this particular opening. Okay, we need additional shading elements. Okay, we need which can be permanently done, or it can be automated, or it can be temporary arrangement as well. Okay, so shading is another very, very important component that we should have understanding about it. Okay, so shading can be discussed in as external elements, and it can be discussed as internal elements as well. Okay, so I hope these ideas have been discussed in your climatology subject, where E is what are the different types of shading elements that we can use, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I'm just putting it here indicatively, but understand that shading is one component that we should understand. Fourth component is of course on ventilation, and last time also in the other unit we did discuss about how ventilation is important and how building openings work differently for ventilating the building. Okay, So what is the aim of the building? Aim of the ventilation in the building is to maintain minimum air quality, to remove heat, or to provide perceptible air movement in the building so that thermal comfort can be achieved. Okay, so it can be done using stack ventilation, and we have discussed it last time. What is stack and how does it work? Okay, and I hope you remember, stack works on temperature difference. Okay, so what is the temperature difference here? What is the temperature at the lower part of the building, and what is the temperature between in the upper part of the building? Okay, so the basics of wind is higher temperature, the cold air is dense. Okay, it will try to settle down. Okay, hot air is less dense, it loses its moisture and it tries to move up. Yeah, this is the concept, and the same thing works in stack effect. Cross ventilation also we have seen. Okay, why and how to place opening in an appropriate position so that we can have maximum ventilation in buildings. Night ventilation or nocturnal ventilation or nocturnal cooling is another technique that is adapted, that is keeping the window, we said, right, this particular building gets heated up, let's say this is maybe 2 p.m. okay, and 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m. this particular wall gets heated up, and it tries to it retains the heat. Okay, so heat will not go out unless and until the outside temperature is lesser. Okay, the same concept, unless and until the temperature here is lower. Okay, this movement will not happen. Okay, so the same thing. Okay, unless and until the there's a temperature measured or observable temperature difference between indoor and outdoor environment, the exchange of air will not take place. The ventilation will not take place. Okay, so nocturnal ventilation is a very simple technique where we try to keep all the openings open so that the heat that is retained inside the building is exhausted, and it is not kept forever. Okay, so for maybe for 2 hours or 3 hours till the indoor room temperature more or less become the outdoor temperature. So ventilation is another component. We have seen about stack ventilation. Okay, how stack works, and the correct the technical word is thermal buoyancy. Okay, the other one in ventilation we have learnt about Bernoulli's effect. Yeah, how because of the difference in pressure, how the air movement can be enhanced. Cross ventilation, nocturnal ventilation. Okay, these are some of the things that we can think of when we talk about climate responsive measures in building. Apart from that, we do take some specific measures, okay, which are called these are actually simple passive strategies which all the buildings are designed for. Okay, all the buildings are designed for these strategies. Okay, however, in addition to that, certain specific strategies are introduced in the building. For example, let's say solar chimneys or earth air tunnel and so on and so forth, where for example in this case the hot air is exhausted out through creating solar chimneys. Okay, so this is one more thing, and we did discuss about thermal mass. Okay, how important it is, the correct understanding of thermal mass or appropriate use of thermal mass material in the external wall is crucial. Otherwise, we may end up heating up the building too much, or after heating, we may end up taking more time lag to shed the heat. Okay, so both things are possible. So this is important when we talk about designing it responsively. Other things like wind towers, okay, these are additional elements, additional passive strategies that is integrated with the building for better performance of the building. Evaporative cooling measures, okay, so for example, particularly in hot and dry climate, these kind of strategies are extensively used. Okay, courtyard is another concept that we use in both the conditions, even in warm and humid climate, that we use courtyard. Okay, so if I have to simplify, or if we have to understand how courtyard works from the scientific aspect, if you remember the stack effect concept, same thing will happen here as well. Okay, what happens, this is the open area. Open area has which is directly exposed to solar radiation. Solar radiation is there, and as a result of it, the this particular area gets heated up. And we know that once the the air is heated up, it loses its moisture and tends to raise up. Okay, and which is compensated that, so suppose for example, let's say X quantity of air is raising up, okay, it has to be replaced by Y quantity of dense air. Okay, so if we have openings on these sides, which will bring in cooler air, okay, for example, this is controlled air, the air that we have inside the building. So these air will replace the hot air in the open space, and as a result, stack effect will take place in courtyards as well. Okay, so courtyard works on similar concepts of stack effect. Okay, and some of the other techniques like air tunnel and so on and so forth are used as well for heating or for maybe cooling the buildings. Okay, and passive downdraft towers, evaporative coolers, and all these are also the other additional elements or additional passive strategies that is used in the building to which are responsive to the climate. Okay, so there are other strategies that do not require external energy to improve the building performance. These passive strategies help to avoid undesirable climate conditions, taking advantage of resources offered by building location such as solar radiation, wind, thermal variability, daylight, clear sky, and ground temperature. Okay, these strategies can be grouped for under heating, cooling, or maybe for storage. Okay, we have seen that, right? There are so many strategies are available. So depending on whether to heat the building, okay, or whether to cool the building, or whether to bring in daylight, or whether to store heat, depending on all this, specific strategy has to be adopted in the buildings. Okay, so which are responsive to climate. Each passive strategy is only valid for some climate. Okay, it will not be applicable for all the climate that we need to understand. Okay, so in order to understand this, all this we are discussing under climate responsive architecture. Okay, so in order to adapt these strategies, we should have very good understanding about climate. Okay, so I hope you have learned about psychometric charts. How do you arrive at thermal comfort or comfort conditions in using psychometric chart? How do we read temperature, humidity in the psychometric chart, so that the appropriate measures can be taken. Okay, so what we do in MARC program is we extensively use climate consultant to understand climate components bit by bit. Okay, and also we use different tools for analyzing the building, how building performs. In this lecture also I will introduce you to some tools, free tools you can also use for understanding climate, and also for simulation, simulating the building, so for different or simple strategies. Okay, so in addition to that, I have put some reading materials in the slides that you can always refer to. For example, let's say this is one on how envelope can be designed for passive. Passive envelopes can be designed. There are different types of walls. Probably, I don't know whether you have heard of this. Trombe wall, ventilated wall, glazed wall, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you can refer to this particular reading material where you will get to know about types of wall that can an envelope, or you can take it as this reference as a reference material for envelope. Okay, overall building design, if you want to understand, okay, this is one of the good example where you can read this particular review paper where how overall building in terms of volume, in terms of envelope, and in terms of surfaces, building orientation all discussed here. This is another example for build form and so on. Okay, design of low and net zero solar homes. If you are interested in something like that, net zero buildings, you can refer to this particular reference where good amount of discussion is discussed presented in this particular paper. Or if you are want to know a little more about thermal insulation, thermal lag, time lag, okay, you can check this particular paper where a very detailed discussion on the concepts of thermal lag, thermal insulation is discussed. Types of insulation, there's something called capacitive insulation, resistive insulation, and so on and so forth. What you will get to know what do you mean by insulation and so on and so forth. Yeah, and also if we have discussed about what is it, stack effect. Yeah, and I also said that good amount of detailing is already discussed in NBC. Okay, you can refer to that also, and you can also refer to this particular paper where they discuss about how buoyancy effect can be used in the buildings in the form of Trombe wall or a solar chimney and other evaporative cooling measures. Okay, and also maybe let's say if you are interested about knowing the first component, aperture, what should be the size of the opening, how the opening should be placed, and how the opening should be finished, and so on, and also a little bit about daylight and passive strategies for daylight. You can refer to this particular paper where exhaustive discussion on that particular subject is there. Okay, and also suppose if you are interested in how do you design building facades alone, how do you make it more responsive for solar facades, how do you design buildings, how design the envelope for as solar facades. You can refer to this particular book paper. All these are research article where exhaustive information will be available for you to discuss or to read about. Again, on ventilation, night ventilation, or little bit about artificial ventilation as well, mechanical ventilation as well, you can read about this. Yeah, these are the things that I thought should be discussing in the under the topic climate responsive approaches. Okay, so these are major concepts. Okay, so that we should understand in terms of concepts and techniques that we can use for designing buildings which are responsive to climate. Okay, so with this I will stop here. I have some more things to discuss, but